Bungalow Bill here, and welcome back to the adventure mode of From the Depths. It's been quite a long time since I've been here, since I've been on numerous detours, one of which is building this, and, dive bombers might not be necessarily the best idea, but they're certainly a fun one, and now I'm going to have them in adventure mode. So it's going to be a while, or it might be a little bit before I actually get the bombers in, because they've all fallen off into the water, since you can't have vehicles docked to a vehicle that's docked to a vehicle. So they're waiting to be built at the moment. I'm going to drop the Kirikami and then get all of her vehicles attached. If you've downloaded her and her vehicles don't attach properly, that's because an update broke them. So I updated the version on the Steam Workshop. That should all work now. So she's having trouble. Pull a new version. This is the second time recording this intro because I got gate crashed by a Seraph when I was recording it the first time. Not the most interesting battle because we're massively overpowering compared to her. I've stepped up the difficulty to 65 to get a moment of peace while I build the Kirikami. I'm probably going to step up as high as 70 or 75 this episode. Focus on getting just a few more resources together until I'll be able to spawn in a real battleship, which will sort of take focus off of the adventure raft, which just isn't going to be able to tank the massive railguns that the harder, neater craft are going to have. And then I'll try stepping up to 100. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, once the Kirikami has all of her drones attached, and we've spawned in an enemy, I'll get back to you. And once the skies have gone black with my fleets, given the air traffic control issues in this game, it's certainly going to be interesting. Well, now I know when anything spawns ever anywhere, because we launched the attack craft. Well, that's a little disappointing. Also, hitting E doesn't tell me what things are in adventure mode anymore. Don't know if that was intentional or not. We dealt no damage, so I didn't kill that. The Ghost. It certainly lives up to its name. I'll probably leave this in the final cut anyway, because that was kind of funny. Probably figure out what that is by loading it in designer mode later. Alright, we are again launching our planes. Let's see what we've spawned in, and how these do. This looks like a Seraph, I'm assuming, based on all of the cramps coming in. No, I was wrong. I just sort of figured because we had another one. This looks like a Hunchback, doesn't it? I had to painstakingly load these planes one at a time. Pretty sure this is a Hunchback. Hobgoblin. Well, okay, they look the same to me anyway. So I'd painstakingly load these planes one at a time, and they can, to some extent, bomb flying targets, but it is definitely a weakness. Let's see how well they do. There's an actual chance that they just ram the target. Oh yeah. Well, some significant issues. They're not tuned for this, but actually way better than I was expecting. Basically just obliterated the Hobgoblin. I'm considering having 2 Kirikamis in this fleet. It might be a little bit much. Well, Hobgoblin, incredibly explosive. Let's see how we hit a falling target. Actually really close. Looks like there's a little bit of damage there. One of the nuggets is going back for repairs. Most of them are coming around for a second pass, which will probably finish off the Hobgoblin. I'm assuming these guys are going to save me a lot of resources in the long run. Unfortunate thing is that spawning a Kirikami in adventure mode is a significant amount of work. The blueprints that it spawns in seem to be completely broken. I don't think you're really supposed to have blueprints in adventure mode. They don't work with docking stations or anything. It says they're not really blueprints, they're like craft with no blocks or something. Anyway, they won't dock with any docking stations. they just get stuck out in the ocean, so I have to delete them all, and then use a blueprint spawner to spawn them in one at a time, and reassociate them with the Kirikami. I also probably need to put controls on the Kirikamis that let me manually sort of summon craft back. Well, anyway, we're in warp difficulty 70 now. I might go up as high as 75. I don't think I'm going to go above that until I have a proper battleship. This fleet plus a battleship may be all that I do, other than maybe some sort of supply craft that has a ridiculous number of RNGs on it, because the battleship is probably going to require a lot of engine power. Also, don't think I'm going to build the battleship fresh. I've already started building a bunch of other things, so I don't really have time for it on top of those, so I'm probably going to retrofit probably the Hull Breacher, but maybe the 5th season as an adventure mode craft. Well, something has certainly spawned in because I'm launching aircraft again. I find it fun. Well, I think I just attached myself to a projectile. It's becoming increasingly hard to not do that. You have to get your cursor exact. Well, I'll just follow the planes in then. Anyway, since I find it fun, I'm going to follow my planes out there. Might not do that the next time, but we'll see. Looks like the launch wasn't that bad. There might be a collision when we get close. Wow, that was the worst skybox render I've seen so far yet. Seems to be degrading. Looks very Onyx Watchy. So this is the trebuchet. Not a particularly large craft, but carries a fair amount of firepower. She seems to be having some issues with her cramp cannons. Not sure what's going on there. Alright, our Hesh is making decent progress, which could probably finish her off on its own really pretty quickly, but yeah, she doesn't like this. Not a heavily armored craft. The turrets are poppable. Just getting 540 frag. Interesting. AA shell friendly fire, don't know. Anyway, just taking 540 firepower with frag bombs is enough to really put a damper on her day. And the Kitty Hawks finally got close enough to do some real damage, but they're not even really needed at this point, although they would really be enough on their own pretty quickly. I doubt that the trebuchet really scored any significant hits for the lambs here. We've definitely been taking some damage. Oh, she managed to take out our main gun, actually. That's not particularly easy to do. Not sure how that happened, because I don't think she fires Hesh. We could have repaired a hole that went through here, but probably not. There's probably some high explosive leak somewhere. I think the trebuchet fires pure high explosive shells, at least she used to. That's our Sea-Wiz. Something was causing that to trigger. Anyway, I believe now that we've... Is that resource zone still there? It's sometimes hard to tell. Looks like that resource zone disappeared like a mirage when we started to get close. Anyway, time to hunt down some more. Alright, I was having some trouble getting things to actually spawn in, so load it in, load it out, and the Excruciator has spawned in way off on the horizon, and is already throwing shells that will do reasonable amounts of damage at this range. The thing is, I think... Well, we'll put her into auto so that she'll close anyway, but I think the Nuggets will just absolutely obliterate the Excruciator, so I don't really think there's going to be much of anything else for any of the other vehicles to do at the moment. Unless they're not able to engage successfully, which might happen. It looks like the anti-air defenses have taken out 2 of them so far. Coming in at a bit of an awkward angle. Yep, she defeated almost that entire attack with the anti-missiles while popping a wheelie. So far she's been holding her own rather well then. From our side of view, the Kitty Hawks are closing at least, which will provide some good backup. Not many campaign craft really like those that much. So, oh, and now that Kitty Hawk is starting to sponge the anti-aircraft missiles, which you might find a little bit tough. It looks like it's still firing and it's still flying, so that's good. So, a viewer of mine recently pointed out to me recently a video of Sam Stash's where he shows that you can change gauge on APS using the separator blocks to disconnect gauge increasers. Really interesting because it basically the motivation to do that isn't so much to change gauge, although, you know, maybe you do want to change gauge to make an anti-aircraft cannon or that sort of thing, but it empties your clips, which lets you change shells immediately. And that has always been an issue. Looks like we're rejoining the fray. I think these are 2 nuggets coming in off the Kitty Kami. There's always been an issue when you kind of go and try to change from one shell type to the next. That, well, your clips are still full of the other shells, so it takes you a whole firing cycle. Maybe. It depends on whether or not you've already completed a firing cycle and whether or not you have clips and that sort of thing. And this strategy actually, oh, that hurts. Doesn't work so well if you have clips, actually. I mean, it clears the autoloaders. Is the main thing. You don't want to have your clips full of shells and just dump all of them, because that can be a huge amount of resources. But if autoloaders haven't completed a firing cycle, this will still purge them and give you new shells immediately. So it's a very responsive way to change what shells your APS is shooting. And I didn't realize really how separators worked until I started to get look more into it because of that video. So, is it something that I'll use for APS? Well, maybe not, but it's definitely an interesting concept. Having to sacrifice really using clips to make this that effective is a significant cost. I might still mess with it, but might not find the cost to be worth it. I looked at a few other things you can do. Didn't really find anything that compelling. Like, there's a lot of stuff I thought of, and I think the devs had also thought of it and made sure that you absolutely couldn't do it. So the only thing I found that was interesting is you can take ring shields apart. So unfortunately, it's not as useful as it could be, because the thought was, okay, well, I can make bombers that take the actual shield projector, like the actual main shield piece, off of the ring shield and bring it with them to just gut enemy vehicles. It's still not an effective weapon, but it's really a cool thing to do. The problem is, if you drop that onto its own vehicle, it gets purged of all its energy. So the only useful thing that I found that you can do with that is it takes 3 frames to basically cycle it off your craft and cycle it back on. The frame it's detaching, the frame it's on its own, and the frame is reattaching. So for 3 frames out of, I don't know, every 80 or so, maybe every 2 seconds, you can basically purge the energy out of a ring shield so that it doesn't just destroy your craft when it takes damage. Not sure if it's worth it, but that's the only useful thing I could really find to do with the separators, other than the other idea that Sam Stash also came up with, which is to switch particle cannon lenses. That seems kind of game-breaking, so don't know if anything will change about that. Well, alright, I have moved up to... Oh, nice collision. I've moved up to difficulty 75, and spawned in an enemy, which seems to be using cram cannons. And has a very tall profile, so not the most choices for there to be there. But let's see what we've got. I believe this is going to be the last fight of the episode. This is roughly the target difficulty that I wanted. I haven't managed to get nearly as many resources as I wanted. I fought a Juggernaut just before the end of difficulty 70, and because I crashed one of my planes into one of its missiles, there was no intent on its targeting there. Okay, it looks like we might be trying to fight. We either crashed into the Kitty Hawk or into a cram cannon shot there. That's a little unfortunate. Rectifier new. I do not remember it. Anyway, I lost my train of thought completely with that spawn.
Listening. Engaging now.
Looks like they already decided to do that. What happened here? Oh, right. No, I have seen the rectifier before. I just sort of forgot about it. It's AI dead. It's gonna be hard for me to figure out exactly what happened, but it's likely that it took a railgun shell. When there are accidents with these, they get expensive kind of fast, at least if their missile tubes take damage. The rest of the plane, not really that expensive. Almost all of their cost is in their missiles. I think the rectifier gave the crossbones time to close quite a bit, though. Not that worried about its shells. Even though it's been upgraded considerably, its shells are still pure HE as far as I'm aware, so they're just going to get killed by the Sea Whiz, fried by the lambs. Really not a whole lot going on there. And if we get some good bomb hits, well, right to the snoot there too. I don't think that really did any damage here, but no face left on that Kitty Hawk. This is the first time I've seen those AP heat missiles hitting so far this episode. Not much is actually closed in enough to launch them. All I can think about in adventure mode is how much all of these munitions that I'm throwing into the crossbones are costing me. If things became salvage when they started despawning, which this might be despawning due to too much damage. No, well, it will soon. It'll save me a lot of money. I can still pause to sort of wait for it to despawn. Well, anyway, that was, if the rectifier didn't just instantly die, that was actually probably some pretty good spawns. So, looking forward to next episode. Oh, I was about to do the outro, but we just spawned in something else, didn't we? It's either that or the crossbones got cut in half. I think we cut the crossbones in half. So with that, I'll pause the game so that the crossbones will despawn. That'll be the end of this episode. Next episode, probably difficulty 75, maybe step it up to 80 if I'm feeling a little spicy. And start to get a feel for what we spawn in there. Because so far looking up a little bit from, difficulty 60 and 65, which wasn't that interesting. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed watching, and I hope to see you in the future.